going to go ahead and get started. I think I'm recording. Yes, it says you're recording up at the top. I am really just facilitating this. There were a lot of people that had preschool type questions that could be better answered by the preschool guru. So we have Andrea on here, and we have Jennifer Riley, Andrea Bartholomew and Jennifer Riley. And Matt Coffey's on here, out with me, like he always is. So those are the KDE people we have. And we've got, these are new within 2 years directors. And there might be a couple of veteran directors.
She actually is supposed to be back, I think, the week of like next week. But Renita's working in the meantime.
There you go. Okay. So I guess the best way to start this, I mean, this is really just to answer your all's questions. We don't have any kind of presentation or anything. So does anybody, you can either raise your hand, unmute, or type in the chat. Those are your 3 options. So feel free to ask your questions. I hope you have them.
Yeah, sure, we're here. So Jen is one of our consultants. She's taking over a lot of the SPED stuff from me. So she is learning what's inside my head, which is a really scary place. So she's here to help you answer questions too, but she'll also be learning along with you all. So please don't hesitate. Ask us anything.
I'm trying to go back and find some of the questions that were asked in the last one.
I got one today about preschool tabs. That could maybe open us up a little bit. The preschool tab, there should only be 1 if there are 2 listed. So sometimes a random teacher will add 1, or an IC clerk, someone who maybe doesn't understand the process, thinks they have to have 2. Sometimes if it's a returning child, they'll go ahead and add a separate tab for that year. You just have to go in and edit the first tab. We only need 1 tab, so you just delete the second one and fill in the first one. That will cause them to not show on your preschool child count, which is obviously an issue. And we usually have around 100 of those when we first start looking. Right now, I think we're down to about 20 kids across the state with a duplicate tab, which is really good for us. That's something that came up just today across my desk. I know Tracy will talk to me.
Yeah, Tracy will talk. You want to get us started, Tracy? Everybody's afraid to ask questions.
Sure, and I just hopped on. I'm a few minutes late, so I don't know if the question's been asked yet, but I know one of the big things in the preschool child count is if I do an ARC today, do I have to have consent for services for that student to count? And what is that's just a basic question. So
you have to have a signed consent by December 1.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And do they have to be be enrolled? Okay.
Yes. If you're only serving them special ed, if you're not serving them in your regular preschool classrooms, if you're just doing SPED with them, you enroll them as an N, and they do not count on your preschool child count, but they count on Amy's IDA count. If you're serving them virtually through the preschool, they're getting preschool services, even virtually, enroll them as a P, enroll them as if they're coming into your building every day, even though they're not, and mark them in public school, attending every day, what have you, for them to receive preschool state funding.
Okay, perfect. What about
the virtual piece has been a little bit confusing for some people because there's some different options in Infinite Campus on the preschool tab, and we don't want you to mark them anything except like they're coming every day.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Can I follow up with a question around that? If a school did them as an N but did a private service plan, I read where it said you could do the shell IEP, but do they need to have a meeting and actually make it an IEP instead of using that private service plan document?
That would be ideal.
Okay.
The shell is just kind of a way to, because we know things are so busy, especially right now.
So no matter what, the plan should be to
so
have a meeting.
Preschool students are not afforded private school plans in Kentucky because preschool is not considered elementary school. in Kentucky. So you serve them under an IEP. If you have, like, take COVID out of this, take COVID out, pretend like, the fairy dust has fallen and everything is normal, and you have kids whose parents only want services, they don't want the preschool program, you can provide that as a district. You don't have to. You're not under FAPE or IDA to provide that to the student. The parent has to agree to the entire preschool program. But a lot of districts do provide those kind of, we call them drive-through services, or outpatient type services, because it's what kids need. But some districts don't have the capacity, and they just can't. So that's where the private school plan kind of gets confusing. If you have a kid who's going to private school but comes to your school for speech, you give them an IEP for preschool. And then when they transition to kindergarten, they would transition to the private school plan. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I had two schools that did it differently, so I wanted to make sure I corrected it correctly.
And I do think that COVID has played a part of that. I think that they it's kind of jarred people a little bit, thinking about, what do I do with these kids who aren't technically enrolled in our district, or don't want this service, don't want that service. I think it's kind of made some people just trying to do the best thing, trying to do what they know is right.
And on the IEP, we can list it as on-site service provider for those preschool students.
The service provider location is typically the LRE that we use, for that.
Yeah, that's 3P, I think, is the.
Yeah, and if it's a kid, so like my situation, when I was teaching, I had some kiddos that would go to the private school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but would come to preschool Tuesday, Thursday, and get the entirety of the preschool program, not just their services. We enrolled those kids as a P, and they were served just like any other preschool student. They just came, they had a separate schedule. So if the kid is taking advantage of any other services in your preschool program, then you can mark them as a P and count them for preschool funding as well. Most don't do that. Most have the private kids come either after, or they send somebody, that kind of thing. But we didn't have that capacity, so we told the parents pretty much, send them here at some point, or just not receive the services. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
yes, thank you.
Okay.
Another question I've gotten is, and I've gotten it quite a bit in the last couple of days, I guess people are really just starting to dig in, is if they're 5 years old and in preschool, what should the LRE be? And if they're 5 years old in preschool, the LRE should start with 3.
Because they're still in preschool.
Because they're still in preschool. If they're 5 years old and in kindergarten, the LRE should start with 6. And this is new this year. I don't know how many of you guys know that that's new this year, but it is, and it's caused some confusion. We tried to, prepare everybody for it, but you know.
Well, we were trying to prepare people for it, and then, the world shut down. So
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah, I think that things took precedence over this, and that's okay. We just have to figure out how to clean it up.
This is Kenny Hartman. Could you repeat what you just said? So if they're 5 and in preschool, just repeat what you said. I just wanted to make sure that I had that written down correctly.
Okay, sure. If they're 5 and in preschool, then the LRE should start with 3. So like 3A1, 3A2, whatever. If they're 5 and in kindergarten, the LRE should start with 6. So it would be like 6A, 6B.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
So it used to be all 5-year-olds were counted with preschool kids, basically. And that the federal government decided last year to change that. So we've been trying to catch up on that. So.
Which, if you are a preschool coordinator as well as a DOS, then you will, that will change how your program is determined in March. So we determine in the program if it's special education, regular education, based upon the LRE. And you used to be able to count all those 5-year-olds in kindergarten, and then you can count all your kindergarten kids. So that made almost all of our programs regular ed. I think we're going to see a change with that, not being able to count those kindergarten kids. Moving forward, which is fine. It's just cleaning up our data. It'll make it better. But if you're a preschool coordinator, just keep that in the back of your head, that's going to affect your program determination in the spring, which we'll talk about at spring leadership. So don't worry.
So then we also have all of the 5-year-olds in kindergarten who still have REs for a
They didn't have that.
preschool.
They didn't have that transition meeting in the spring,
Right.
probably.
Yeah, probably. So we've got 1,700 of those. I sent that out yesterday, and I kind of panicked a little bit when I sent that out. But hopefully it's an easy fix. But if you need to know how to find those kids, I sent out the directions on how to find them, but I can also just call me and I'll walk you through it. Call me we'd have to do it on Teams so I could share my screen, but I can definitely do that. I just to send out those kids, because people are working on them daily. So as soon as by the time I get everything organized to get all the list of kids together to send it out, things have changed and the data's old. So I tried that once and it didn't work. So, okay, do you guys have any other questions?
And I'm just going to throw this out there. I just know these are questions that I'm always asked, so I'll just ask in general.
We appreciate that.
Head Start students. How do we count Head Start students, Andrea, that's getting services?
Okay, if they're a Head Start kid in a Head Start program, they receive Head Start dollars. Then you're providing them only with special education services. You enroll them as an N, and you do not need to fill out the preschool tab. Because they're not counted for state funds. They're only counted for the IDA funds. But if you are blended and you have a child in classrooms, you have state funded students and Head Start students in the same classroom, then you can count them as enrolled in your program as a P. You can talk with your Head Start partner. There's something that's called enhancement. If you don't know what enhancement is, then your district probably doesn't do it. Because not everyone does, but that child would receive both state-funded dollars and federal funds through Head Start. But typically, if you're only providing special ed services, they're enrolled as an N, and you don't receive state funds for them.
So if a kid is, I guess most of the situations I've seen are kids who were preschool and their parents decided to keep them home because of COVID.
Yeah.
So they already have a preschool tab. So they just have an enrollment with the preschool tab and an IEP, right?
If they're only getting services.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. The enrollment will pull them off of our count.
Okay.
We just asked with the Head Start kids because sometimes Head Starts are like almost essentially renting a room in the school district building. And so those kids have to be in Infinite Campus for attendance and for safety reasons and things like that, to have those manifests or whatever, and for record keeping. And sometimes people get confused and create them a preschool tab and, kind of mess it up a little bit and pretend that they're preschool kids and when they're essentially not. So that can be Head Start issues can be really confusing, and they're very specific to the actual Head Start program and the district. So if you have those specific questions, we can talk about them now, but you're always welcome for any other thing but that too to call us and we can walk through it together.
I think the preschool kids, you get a lot of errors on your error report sometimes, and it's because things don't pull in because you do so many eligibilities and dismissals for speech and kinds of things for it. So if anyone gets an error that you can't figure out on your report, you can definitely shoot me an email or a call. I'm in Woodford County. I guess I can put my email in the chat but I did that yesterday or whenever we met last. I'll do it again. But I just know preschool can give you some tricky things on your December 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we like to cause problems.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions?
I have a general IC question. Can I ask that while we're on here?
That's fine.
It's not pulling the resident district up. Is that everywhere, or is that just something happening here?
I see that a lot. Matt, can you speak to that at all? Do you know anything about that? And if you say no, it's okay. Nobody will laugh at you.
I was afraid you were going to ask me that. I actually never messed with that before.
I do see a lot of IEPs with no resident district. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. But I will check into it in the meantime.
Okay, because if it's a fix we have to make here, we can make it. I just don't know what the fix is.
Now that I think about it, I seem to remember a conversation a long time ago where that only populates if the student is enrolled in a district. I could be.
I think you're right. I think you might be right. But I'll check on it. But I think that's probably the case.
Thanks.
Any other crazy child count questions